Crisis Group, Nick, we produce every year what we call 10 conflicts to watch. And in the one that we produced last year, and even before, we said take President Putin at his word, that he wasn't bluffing. What we couldn't determine, as you rightfully said, was the scale of the intervention, the depth of the war, and how far he would go. But there were already enough signs out there that he was going to pursue some kind of military adventurism. So, Ian, when you talk about some of the failures of the international actors, I still think there's a lot of work to be done on prevention, but not just on prevention, but the anticipatory policies that have to accompany prevention. No actor, what surprises me is that no actor says they're surprised by what happened. And then you have to ask yourself, then what about the steps you ought to have taken? Now, there is a school of thought out there that suggests the deterrence. We put so much deterrence on the table, but Putin was already clear about his strategy, and that strategy was defined a decade or so ago. But then you have to ask yourselves about the leverage that you have and what went wrong, between 2014 and then today. Some would argue that the original sin actually was the failure to handle 2014 significantly, and others would come back even earlier and say the original sin was a much earlier, which you alluded to. You mentioned Georgia, I didn't. So there are I think there are a number of important questions that must be asked, a number of assessments. But today is not the time for assessment. I think the focus today must be finding a way to end the war and to make sure that it lands well for Ukraine. This has been quite devastating, and we can come back and ask ourselves, what ifs and why, and now focus on how to bring an end to this very awful war that we're seeing today.